Hi, my name is Nikola Mirkovic and I'm the co-founder of ZenDev. Welcome to another episode of ZenCoffee. I'm here in Koh Phangan, Thailand with my friend Stefan Trailovic. Welcome. Dobrodošli. Welcome, man.
Thank you. Tack så mycket. Hvala. Pozdrav svima.
Yeah, I wanted to invite you here because I've been super impressed since the day I met you. You have achieved so much in a young age, and I've been curious on you ever since. You're a super hard worker, and today you're a CEO of a company of 80 plus people, also an IT consulting company. Can you tell us a little bit shortly what QueensLab does, and we can go into your background after that?
Absolutely. And thank you for having me, and thank you for being impressed by my journey. And of course, I'm as well impressed by your journey and your guys' journey. But QueensLab is an IT consultant company. Basically, we do is web systems and applications. We do both the design and development of it.
And you're based mostly in Gothenburg and some other locations as well?
Yeah, exactly. So we are based in Gothenburg, where our headquarters are. And we started there 5 years ago. But we also have offices now in Stockholm and also in Lisbon, in Portugal.
All right, cool. We will talk a little bit more about QueensLab later, but I want the viewers to get to know you a little bit personally. So can you tell us a little bit about your background, everywhere from high school until, because you're still really young, so, and how you ended up being a CEO of a company of 80 plus people?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been quite of a journey. I started off my journey as an entrepreneur when I was about 15 years old. And that's because at that time I wanted to be a professional football player. Well, you guys can see how that went. But so I started talking about high school. I started to go on a high school where I could remotely study. That's because I wanted to focus on my football and play that. So meanwhile, that meant that I could get a lot of free time, so I could set up my time how I wanted, and by that I got extra time, and I started my first company. It was called mobilprylar.se. Basically, it means I was selling mobile accessories and chargers and so on. And this was when I was 15 years old.
How much did you practice, like in football at that time? Like how many times per week? Or
it was probably like 10 times a week.
Yeah.
So I really was training a lot.
Yeah.
But before that I had some subjects in school have been easier than others. So that means I got some time in school. But also that I started as soon as I started my company, I earned the first money and so on. I started paying off other people to do my homework. Okay. So I got more time to do more job.
The money you earned from this e-commerce was from you want to invest in people doing your homework.
Yeah, exactly.
To create more time for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was what I started doing, like alongside the football that I was training hard and trying up there. So, and this went on for quite a few years, and it was really good for me to do this e-commerce because I could travel and focus on my football, but at the same time could do something that I really liked. So,
can I ask how much did you make on those, like around just a year?
Yeah, it was in total it was a couple of 100,000 euros in total revenue, but I had
over a few years.
Yeah, over a few years. So I had it for about 3 years, maybe 4 even, something like that.
Wow, that's quite a lot in that age.
Yeah, in that age it was perfect.
You have money over just not paying the tutors, people to do your homework. You still had money to do other
That's
things.
the only expense I had.
Cool.
But it was so I've learned Spanish, but I don't speak any word Spanish.
You got high grades in Spanish.
I got quite a few high grades actually, because I got a good, of course, people that I was doing my homework, and then when I was supposed to do it, I had to, because we had like video chats when they were supposed to like check that I actually know what I was writing the essays about and so on. Of course, I learned some words and so on, but I was always I had to tell them that the internet connection was really bad.
No.
So I had to sit there while I was doing Google Translate in the background to try to figure out what are they asking and what should I answer,
Yeah,
So it was quite interesting. But I went on for quite a few years. So I graduated high school, kind of. Yeah, I did. But then I got like the taste of the entrepreneurship, and I found out that this is something I really want to do. Um, and that's when I also started, because when I built my e-commerce, I did it a little bit myself with the help of Google, of course. I kind of Google the answers. And then also I took help of other people around the world, like freelancers. Yeah, exactly. Freelancers, a lot of people from countries, developing countries. It could be a lot of IT experts from like India and so on, because it was cheaper for me.
Yeah.
Of course. But that was then when I started to help other e-commerce websites with their issues, like mostly technical issues. So what happened was that I started like building up a web agency, almost by mistake, so to speak.
Yeah.
It just happened because I went through that, and I started.
Like, sorry to interrupt. Can I just ask, like, how did people get in touch with you? Like, was it just personal contacts that needed help, or did you actively seek out these e-commerce companies? Or
well, it's funny. First off, it went through a forum. It was I had an e-commerce platform called PrestaShop. And on that forum there was some Swedish subsection, and they were asking for a module or a plugin that could do a specific function. It was about the costs with or without VAT. And that's what I developed on because I wanted to focus more to B2B sales and so on. So I had that, and they said okay, if you can fix this for me, I will give you a couple of €1,000 or something like that. I was like, yeah, sure. And it will only take me 1 hour to do it. That's when I started to see the opportunity. And I reached out to a couple of them out on that forum if they wanted it. It was the same.
Okay.
So that's how, and then they start to ask me, but can you do this? I was like, yeah. Can you do that? I was like, yeah.
And I started, yes, and then solve the problem later. Yeah.
So they started to asking me for more stuff and so on.
Yeah. And how old were you in this period? It was
I was probably 18 or something like that.
Yeah, still in high school.
Well, actually, I finished high school there because in my earlier days, I jumped over a class, so I graduated high school 1 year earlier.
And were you still active as a football player?
That's when I went back to Sweden and kind of starting to
accept the fact that you didn't become a professional.
Yeah, kind of. A little bit too soon, maybe, but
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
The doubt suddenly creeps in, and then it goes fast.
Exactly. I started to find other things in life, like parties and other things. So yeah.
Usually goes that way.
Yeah, I know.
All right, so you were running this web agency for a while then when you were 18, and
yeah, so basically I ran it for quite a few years, even 3 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And I started helping more and more companies. So I was just taking in projects in Sweden and from Swedish clients, and helped them off with that. And then I have developers all around the world. It was everywhere from Chile to Venezuela, and in Europe I had Serbia or the Balkans, Bosnia and so on. And Ukraine, and of course Vietnam and India, from everywhere basically.
Where are the best developers in your opinion, and since you worked with everyone?
I mean, there's so many talented people all around the world. It so depends on all the people you find.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to answer here politically correct.
Yeah. But I agree with that. I mean, there's overall ups and downs, but in general, it's who you actually get in contact. It's good and bad people everywhere, basically. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I started growing my name in some type of forums in the e-commerce industry, which meant I came in contact with a couple of people, and I got a funny story where there was an e-commerce website. It's called Frökungen, which basically means seeds king. For seeds that you can plant, you can make tomatoes or some other vegetables or flowers and so on. And it was, I think, they had the biggest different types of seeds, over 3,000. So it was one of the biggest in the Nordics. They came in contact with me and wanted me to invest in the company and be part of the company. And we started talking on phone, and everything went well. And basically, we all decided everything through the phone and through emails and so on, because we are located in different parts of Sweden. And when we had our first meeting through Skype, we had it, and I saw everyone was a little bit shocked, and they didn't tell me. But after a while, the CEO of that company told me, she was like, Yeah, you know what? When we spoke with you, we were like, "Hey, let's take in this Stefan guy. He's really experienced, and old and everything. We should take in this guy." And then they saw me like on Skype, and I was just a 20 years old kid. But that's because Stefan is a kind of old man's name here in Sweden, at least.
Yeah.
So that was kind of quite a funny.
So they
story.
were shocked that you were only 20 years old, and because of you having so much knowledge in that, and seemed really experienced in e-commerce. I mean, you probably were, but they thought you were just basically, I would say, age discriminating. I mean, you should probably have gone with you anyways, right?
Yeah, I mean, they started off their journey because all of them were about 30 years old, or 30, 40, somewhere in between that. So they were like, hey, we need someone that's more experienced in this field.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that I came to a 20 years old person. that was quite a bit funny, Yeah. I mean, e-commerce is such a new field, at least.
Yeah, it's hard to be like have 20 years of experience in e-commerce. Like that's basically no one has that. Like,
you don't even want someone that's got 20 years.
No,
I mean,
exactly.
so much is changing and so on. And I was just self-taught, so everything from Google and every other website that I could reach and research.
So they bailed out on that completely? Then?
No, they didn't. So we went through with it, and so I was part of that company for a while. Then someone else bought me out and so on. So that was also a very interesting, successful journey.
How long was that, like in the time span, like where you were from making the deal to?
Yeah, no, the deal went quickly. I mean, that was something good with that team. They all decided fast and execute fast. And then we started doing, and then someone dropped off, and then we continued with that, and then someone bought me off and so on. Yeah. So, but it was around 1.5 years. But this was parallel while I was doing like the web agency.
Okay, so you were doing both.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What was your responsibilities in this e-commerce company that you went in through again?
Yeah, exactly. I was most responsible for the technical stuff.
Yeah.
So we were a small team of about 5 people.
Yeah.
So we all did a bit of everything. So it could be we were helping each other and so on. But most of the technical stuff with the web and the ads and SEO and so on. So I could help with that.
So you bought your share in that company, and then you sold it around 1.5 years?
Yeah, and when I bought it was more for a symbolic sum of money, more for us to commit.
Yeah.
And everyone. And then when we did the exit, it was a little bit better there.
You can be, if you want to be transparent with the numbers also, I think the viewers, but if you're not, it's fine also.
I mean, the exit was about, I think it was about 50,000 euros or something like that.
Yeah.
And then in the beginning, I think I put in 5,000 or something. Yeah. But I
pretty good return on investment.
Yeah, but if you count in all the hours, maybe not that good.
Yeah.
To be honest.
No.
But
you were learning.
Yeah, exactly.
20 years old.
Yeah, so I was basically getting paid my college degree.
Yeah.
So that was it was fun journey. A lot of learning points there.
What was the key learning points that you take away from that company, or those hours you spent in?
The key learning point for me in that time was more about learn to work with other people. In that meaning of that we have to coordinate other stuff and what type of areas everyone should be in. Because before that, I only was working with my e-commerce, which I did all myself, but didn't have to coordinate with anyone else.
Yeah, just freelancers, but that's a different thing to do it. And then comparing to working in a real company, where you have to cooperate with others, basically.
Yeah, and we basically could have different type of views where the company should go, or what we should focus on, and so on. So that was new for me, because also the thing, I've never been employed. I never had a normal job, so to speak, to have a boss or someone else tell me what direction so we should go. So that was a new experience for me.
Yeah.
But it was very helpful because after that, and I had the freelancers and everything, and so I decided that I should start something up in Sweden, because I felt that I was just doing new projects. And just for the next project, I didn't do so much value. I didn't bring so much value to the table for myself or the company and so on. So I wanted to do something more than that. And that's when I decided to start off and hire people in Sweden.
Yeah. As a consultant company, an IT consulting company in Sweden, working for mostly Gothenburg clients, I guess.
Yeah, so that was the thing for me. When I started the company, I did, of course, did research in Sweden and so on. I live in Gothenburg, Sweden, so I knew, of course, how some things work. But I was still like 21 years old at that time, or 20, 21 years old. So I had still a lot to learn.
Yeah.
But when I started off, I did the research and saw like how are the salaries and so on. And something important for me was that I'm a risk taker, as you know.
Yeah.
But I don't want to risk someone else's money or someone else like job or like life security and so on.
Yeah, you can take a risk for yourself, but not for others.
Yeah. So that was important for me. So something I even did when I started that company, I sold off my apartment that I bought like from the money I earned before that, and moved back home to my parents. So that was kind of yeah, it was a smart move, but 21 years old guy, you want to have your own place. But that was a good move for the business. You have to sacrifice some.
Very mature move for that age. I mean, that's something like it's easy to reflect back on. But like you said, if you're 20 years old, you maybe think about like short-term things instead of doing these. So yeah, I'm impressed by that.
Yeah. So that was a move I did to like secure. Afterwards, it went so well, so I didn't have to. So I bought back an apartment, of course, after a while. But when I started off to hire people, I was kind of like a little bit nervous to hire them and then not have projects. So I did the research and found out in Gothenburg and so on, it's a lot of base consultancy where you go and consult at the client's offices and, regular time and material based.
Yeah, like on-site developers, I guess, in this case with IT consultants. So being at the customer's office and so on. Yeah,
exactly. So that's what I did, the research. And I was like, this could be something for me because me, myself, I'm not a developer. Of course, I've learned quite a few things throughout the years. But there was something good for me because I could then also do the quality assurance. The client could do the quality assurance for me. Yeah. I didn't have to have it myself. So that's when I started to decide to hire people. And for me in the beginning, it was just a numbers game to try to reach out to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And when I was sitting down in interviews with people, I had to do a little bit of fake it till you make it.
A lot, I guess.
A lot of, there was a lot. I was sitting in like a co-working space, So each time I had interviews that day, I put up like signs throughout the whole co-working space, like my logotype and my colors and so on. So it looked like we had the whole office for ourselves.
Nice.
So, and like when I went in, they went to coffee and I was like, yeah, there's some members there. Yeah, hi, how are you doing? It's going good there. Then they thought like there was
you never said that they weren't working there, but you also didn't say that. Yeah.
Exactly. So if someone asked me, of course, I wouldn't lie.
No, but
But you can avoid the questions. You can still kind of answer questions. Yeah. So a little bit of fake it till you make it. And then also a thing I said to people was like, okay, we're a consultancy agency that want to change things. And that's something we still want to do today.
Yeah.
But we want to have focus on the people. That was something core for me in the beginning. I want to focus on the people that bring the value to the company and not just on numbers and so on.
Yeah.
So I said to everyone that was joining or perhaps wanted to join, I was like, okay, if you want to join this company, we want to give you the best assignments or like the project with the client. We are so sure that we can do that for you that you don't have to like sign this contract until I can show you the contract for the client assignment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that basically meant that I was like, and some people were like, yeah, sure, I can send you offers. And you can see just like, do you like this assignment and this? And some people I was like, okay, sure. And then we signed like an NDA and so on. And I just went out with their like CV and tried to sell it to every customer. And if the customer says yes, like they will have an interview with that person. They will have like a quality assurance test, like code test and so on. So basically what I did was I was too afraid to hire people before I got an assignment.
Yeah, it's smart not to take the risk. Right?
Exactly. So, and when they said yes, I said yes. Of course, I did my also research on that person. And then whenever you said yes, I just signed the contracts everywhere and then it's a done deal.
Yeah.
But that's also good to not have the risk and they could do like the quality assurance and so on for me.
Yeah, but that's really interesting. I want to dig deep in the first employee, because that's always the hardest, right? Mm-hmm. First project you got, like, did you just go to a lot of random companies in Gothenburg and with one profile and show them, or did you have multiple profiles at the same time, or how did you do it? Like,
I did everything. I mean, for the first, like, I remember the first interview I had with our person. I was so nervous. I like put on my like father's suit, or probably a little bit too big, and I even have pictures of it. It's so funny.
Let's include it in the
yeah, let's do that.
All right, so you didn't even have your own suit, or you did? You borrowed your father's suit.
Yeah, I had to borrow it, and but then I bought my own. After a while, I had to. But yeah, so the first employee, I mean, the first interview at least, I was so nervous. Before that, I Googled like, what should I ask? I didn't even know, because me myself wasn't. As I told you before, I didn't go to like an interview myself.
Yeah, I did this also at Sendo. Like we in the beginning, we were just like, how do you have a interview basically? What kind of questions do you ask? Because I've been to a few at least, but it's another to be on the other side of the table basically.
Yeah, it's so different. But I remember the first one, I was like asking questions and so on, this and that. I was so nervous, like I was even sweating. I was like just standing across this guy, and it was like, I remember it was just looking at me. I was like, poor you. I was like, after the interview, I was like, that went good. I was like, but what did he say? I don't even remember. I was so focused
on what you were saying.
Exactly.
And not listening. Yeah.
But after a while, I was just like doing more and more. And of course, practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
But that was also then when I was like, hey, I want to see how other companies do this. I want to see what they do, and then even maybe I want to see how that goes.
Yeah.
So what I started off was like, I signed up on a website where they could like, okay, you can get matching companies and so on. I was like, yeah, let's see how this works. And then companies started to reach out to me, and I was like saying that I was a developer.
Yeah. And
one company in particular reached out to me, which was a kind of a cool like agency in Gothenburg based. I was like, okay, this is cool. Let's go and talk with them and see what they say.
Yeah.
So I took an interview with someone, and she was like asking me questions and so on. I answered all the questions, and she was asking me developing questions. She was mostly focused on HR.
Yeah,
so
she were like a recruiter.
So in her mind, I was like a technical genius or something, probably like that, because I could talk a little bit technical stuff and so on.
Yeah.
So she was like, "Oh, that's really good." And then I went on a second like interview there. I was like, "Okay, this is going too far. I'm not gonna like take the job. I just wanted to see how things are going."
Yeah.
After the second interview, like they called me, I was like, okay, now I need to tell them like, oh, hey, this is not for me. I was even transparent with them that I was starting off my own company and so on, but that I was not sure if I should do that or this. But they told me like, and I was like, okay, now I need to like stop. And I was like, hey, we got a client that really wants to meet you. And I was like, okay, now I took it too far. So I was like, how far can I take it? I was like, yeah, sure, let's meet up.
Yeah.
And then I met them, the client. I met it's a big Swedish brand in the e-commerce field in fashion.
Yeah.
So it's a really big one.
Naked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I met them, and I went out there and met like the HR chief of HR or something like that, and then the CTO and like a team lead or scrum master from the team. And I met them, and they took interview, and they were like really trying to like get me grilled and ask questions and so on.
Yeah.
So I answered them all as a political person, just to repeat what they say.
And then try to give the best answer.
Yeah, exactly. So I did that, and after a while they called me. I was like, okay, now I took it really too far. I need to like stop this. But they called me. I was like, yeah, we think it's really interesting, but we're not sure about your technical because we didn't quite get the answers like we needed, more deep.
Because you didn't know them.
Yeah, exactly. But they were like, hey, but you could talk for yourself, you could do this and that. Yeah. So they were like, but we would really like to like meet you. And like, I was like, nah, I don't know. But they were like, it's maybe best. Like they told me first, like, okay, you should come for an interview. I was like, I'm not sure like if I should do that. Okay, but do you want to come a full day and just see how it is, and we can just talk and
like
you can
test
see.
Work.
Kind of test work, but also they were trying to sell to me to join the company because I was, kind of like trying to get them up.
Yeah.
So they were like, hey, come and test work one day. I was like, sure, why not? Yeah. So I actually went there one day in the morning. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be interesting. So they showed me through around the like office, and they showed me how the different departments and so on.
Yeah.
And the most interesting was, of course, where they took the pictures of all the beautiful models that were there. So I was like, hey, this job actually looks interesting.
You were getting interested for real.
Yeah, and then I started getting interested for real. Like, hey, I actually want this job, maybe. No, but then I went to the IT department and I was sitting there and I was like, but I had because I had developers. Something I wanted to do with this client was, hey, maybe I can get these as a client for my company. So I had persons ready, actually one in Serbia, ready for like, hey, I'm going to this day and everything I send you, you should like be ready. They were
so like a freelancer remotely that could help you with tasks. So,
yeah.
So you didn't come totally unprepared then.
Exactly. So I was well prepared. Yeah, but in my perspective, I was well prepared. Yeah. But the issue was that I sat down like next to the guy, and it was like this kind of desk. So we sat next to each other. So it was really hard for me to try to do something. And they gave me some tasks, and I did some developing myself. But like, hey, I couldn't do it on that type of level they wanted it. Yeah. So, but I'd never been on so many bathroom breaks than that day. I got lost to the marketing department for a while, talked with them and so on. But that day was like, all right, I'm maybe taking this too far. But it was such a good like learning journey, and it's something like important, I think, to know in entrepreneurship in general. Like, you just need to do it, you know?
Yeah. If you get out of your comfort zone, you obviously weren't prepared or even competent enough to do that job, but you tried at least.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something really important to go out to your comfort zone. Also, I realized at that time, of course, it was comfortable for me. I was like, hey, I was sweating. I was like, this is so embarrassing. I mean, I didn't feel good about it, but that was also like, this is nothing compared to the challenges that will get to me in the future. Yeah. So I was like, I have to be ready for them. But afterwards, I met both the CTO and also the recruiter and everything after this, and I talked with them. I was like, hey, I'm sorry for this. And like, they didn't see it all that way. They were like, hey, what? No, that's totally cool, man. It was so fun and it was good. And they were even laughing. So it's a good story now.
Yeah. You were probably a bit worried that you like wasted your time or like, but, you know, that's how it goes with recruitment. I mean, you have to go through a lot of people, and that story sticks out still, and it's probably fun for them as well. Like, but you didn't get the job by then, I guess.
No, they called me. I was like, yeah, maybe this is not the perfect match. I was like, no, I totally agree. Like, no, let's stop it there. Like, okay, I don't want to write any more contracts or do something else. But that was an interesting story and time. Yeah. But that's how I started, basically. So started and tried to meet a lot of people, and I did different type of things, met different type, and did same with the clients. I mean, I did different type of offers. I was like, hey, we offer a free month. You can do this, and we did that. I mean, everything you can think of. I just did testing. It was just A/B testing. We're like,
test everything to see what works. Basically.
What sticks, and something sticks. I was like, hey, let's do more of that, and then we change a little bit more. And that's something I think is important, just to do it. I mean,
how long did it take for you to get your first client with one developer, like one consultant, like from the day you started the IT consulting company? It was the name Stebla?
Yeah, Stebla.
Stebla Group.
Yeah. It was even a group, you know, to sound a little bit bigger. I mean, when I started, it's hard to say when I started really with the new company because I had the web agency still. So I still had projects running and so on. When I hired people, some of these projects could the people do and so on. But basically, when I hired one and got a new client, it was like maybe a couple of 2 months or 3 months, something like that. The first one, and I got 2 more within like 2 months. After that, like, so within 6 months, I had about 4 people. So we went quite fast in the beginning. And then that I had to, and there was always, the more we were, the more risk involved. Because some of the assignment, like the first assignment after, it was 3 months. It was like, it ended there. Usually clients extend the assignment, but this assignment was done.
Okay.
So I was like, hey, now I got a person who I have to sell. Like now the risk
on the bench.
So to speak, on the bench. So that was also something for me, like, okay, now I couldn't recruit new people. I had to focus on this. But
it's still really fast to go out. Like, I mean, I've done it myself in Gothenburg. It takes a while to figure it out, but it's, I mean, 4 people in 6 months. That's impressive. So
it's quite fun and good, but it was always try to figure out what type of selling points I had.
Yeah.
Like when we were small, we could have these type of selling points, you know. We're a small, like a family, so to speak, and so on.
Yeah.
Now we have different type of purposes and so on in a company.
Yeah.
And of course, now when we're growing, it's more clear what we want to do. In the beginning, it was just it was a little bit unclear, or why was it developed at that time, like in the same way.
Yeah.
And so on.
And so you were, what did you say, 4 people after 6 months, and then I know you met with that's actually when we started to get to know each other, like around that time, and I guess you were scouting for partners already then, and unfortunately we didn't make it, but so I guess you met with QueensLab then also to see if was that the intention to do a merger, or how long after, like the first 6 months, like how long into the Stebla group were you meeting with
So about 2 years in.
So it was quite a while.
Yeah, it was quite a while, and we're about almost like 10 people at that time. I started to meet other people. I met you guys, and it was really nice. But I started to meet other people because I realized I maybe want to do this together with someone else, because I found the purpose of building a company is not just building it yourself. I want to build it with others.
I really agree with that. It's so, I mean, it's really tough to do it yourself, but also so like you don't have anyone to share with, like success, failures, and so on. So I really agree with that opinion.
Yeah, because it's more of a lifestyle, you know. When you reach that type of point, you want to do this type of change and so on. You want to do it together with others.
Yeah.
You don't want to do it yourself.
Yeah.
So that's when I started to reach out to a couple of people, and someone matched me with QueensLab, and I met one of the founders there. We sat down for lunch, and one of the guys, one of the founder there, is like CTO and has like 20 years of experience within tech, and the other guy is a design chief, so 20 years experience of design. So we were like had really good synergy there, because they got 20 years of experience with that within their field, and I got like 20 years experience of life. So I was like, I qualified. No, but I was like the business mind and so on, because I also saw when we started, it was really quick there too, like quick the decisions.
How old were you at this point? 22, 23, or
22, 23, somewhere. Yeah, about 23, I think. So that's when we decided, like, hey, let's see if we can do something together, because they were also looking for someone that could do like the numbers thing, because they were like really good at what they were doing, but they were really bad at earning money from it.
Yeah.
But that was good on the focusing on the business side, but I couldn't do like the quality assurance and push like the design and tech forward.
Yeah.
So it was really good matchmaking that way. So we decided, like a couple of months in, we were like, hey, let's like merge these two companies.
Yeah. So your 10 people will go in under their umbrella, QueensLab, because they had a little bit better brand, I guess, and all that. So And
so
were they at the same size, or how big were they?
They were a little bit bigger. So there were about 15 people or something like that.
Yeah.
But we were like, we 3 or 2 from them, like that founded QueensLab, and me just joined forces together. Yeah. And something that was good at that time, I mean, that was easy. When we just sit down one full day and was like, hey, let's decide the name. What should we do? Yeah. Okay, let's do that. Okay, next question, like the shares, let's do this. And we all like, it was really easy to go through all these kind of, hard questions.
Yeah, that says something about the potential collaboration after that. Like it's going to be good if you can decide on those hard things really quickly. So that's a good test.
Yeah, because we could sit months or weeks trying to, hey, let's do this or let's do that, and count numbers. We were like, it doesn't matter, but it was perspective for us. Yeah. Like we haven't even done 1% of the journey we're gonna do, so it doesn't matter like how much of the 1%.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was something, and basically after that we joined forces, and that's when we started to grow really fast together. This was the end of 2019. Yeah. But it even took some time for the legal stuff and so on, everything to happen. So in the beginning of 2020 is like when we really merged the companies together.
And you were around 25 people together then when you merged? Or?
Yeah, exactly. So about 25 people. And that was also a lesson, like how we should merge and how we should do that. And we had after works before we told anyone, just to see the synergy within the people, like before we decided even to
Right.
merge, like
Yeah.
can we do this, or are we different type of cultures and so on?
Yeah, I think that's super important, the culture part, that a lot of people don't think about. Like, can you really just mix these people together? But that's a smart move to do it like that, to see how it works and if they could click and so on.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that was something, because that's something I think bigger companies fail on constantly, is that they just
see the numbers and so on.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we tried off and it went well.
Yeah.
So from that point, it was the beginning of 2020. We started to grow a lot, but then that was just then when Corona happened, you know.
Yeah.
And we got affected quite a lot because of the, you know, when we were growing as a company, that's at some point we started to hire people before we got the assignments. You know, I couldn't do it.
You get the confidence to that you should, because you know that you can sell basically. But then when these big things happen, it's a different story.
Exactly. So that happened, unfortunately, but we went through it. We worked really hard and even managed to throughout the year, like after the year, to even grow the company, and like had a really successful 2021.
How much did you grow in 2021 from around people, like from X people to Y?
I mean, the revenue have been growing about 100% each year since the beginning.
That's great.
So it's really quite a fast growth.
Yeah, I think like the average growth rate of consultant companies is around like 25%. I think, but that's 100% every year. That's really impressive. Wow. Congrats.
Yeah, exactly. So we got a prize recently for like being the third fastest growing company in the West Coast in Sweden.
Wow.
Throughout like 4 years or something like that. So it was 900% or something like that growth. So that was really fun. And even like this year is also like 100% growth in the revenue.
Yeah.
But also as a company, you probably have the same type of journey with the company, that you have different type of journeys. You have like the startup as a family, you know?
Yeah.
And then you start becoming like, and you see these type of interesting stories within the company, you know? In the beginning, you have everyone, when it's after work, everyone is there, you know?
Yeah.
And everyone is helping, like buying beer or going out buying chips, or they arrange this and they arrange that. Then you start to grow the company, you reach a point where like people don't show up for the after work. They got like other plans, and you're like, what? Are they gonna quit? What is happening, you know?
It's just different vibe. Yeah, we went all through it with Sendem as well. And I think you take it like personally in the beginning, but then you realize it's not like because suddenly you are not that family company that everyone knows everyone. And I still think I don't know all the names that work in our company, but almost. But I feel like ashamed of it still. But then you realize there's an end game, like, okay, when we're 500 people, there's a number where you can't just remember everyone's name. It's possible, but it also loses the personal touch on the company, unfortunately, I think. But it's impossible.
Yeah. And it's a different type of journey in the company, and that's something also hard I've been for myself to realize, you know. It's as you say, it's impossible to keep on like learning the names, to remember. I could remember the birthdays for people, but it started to become impossible.
And you also have multiple locations now, Stockholm and Lisbon. So I mean, it's even harder than when it's a different location. So, but what are your vision now with QueensLab? If we take from today, like, and say the next 5 years.
So for QueensLab, we have what we always wanted to do. Like when we merged the companies, we start also like looking at more at the why. Why are we doing this? Are we looking at the same vision? Do we want the same thing? And what the vision that QueensLab has today is kind of a combined vision of what I had with my company and these guys had with theirs. So, and the combined vision today is something that we agreed on, is that we want to change something. We want to change how the consultancy industry works in Gothenburg. It's kind of, you know, it's very masculine, it's gray, it's kind of boring. And the people, they don't really care about the people. They just want to like have the billable rate and, you know, and things like that. So we just want to change that. We want to do something else and to stand out was really important for us. And that's when also within the name, like QueensLab, it's a really odd name for a consultancy agency.
Within IT, like
exactly. But that's something like we started. Okay, let's call ourselves Queens. Just to be different, you know. You got the kings, you got the knights, you got everything. But so let's do something else.
And I think it is hard for women within IT. Like there's a big majority men. Like I don't know what's the average, 70-80%, I guess, something like that. But how many women do you have percentage-wise in the company? Do you know around?
Yeah, I know that around the number. There's also something important for us. Is something that we also are not trying to force. You know, we're not looking at the number. You know, hey,
we need to be now.
Yeah, exactly. We're about 40%, I would say. So that's really good.
Yeah, that's really high
for the industry. But it's not something that we are trying to like look at, because when you try to force it, that's not when you're gonna get it.
No.
And we just hire the best people.
We don't make it a little bit more friendly for them to seek that could maybe be a company for them, because you are very open and doesn't like discriminate on genders and so on. And I don't think like most IT companies don't do that, but if you have a really techy, like geeky, manly, then maybe as a woman it's harder to like feel that could be a company for them compared to your QueensLab branding, basically. That's smart branding too.
Absolutely. So we have a branding that's maybe more approachable for women, definitely. So that helped us. But that's also something important in general. I think what we have is we're open. I mean, a lot of the times I get the questions like, how old are the people working at QueensLab and so on? Because they maybe see me as young, and they probably think that I just hire my friends. But I was actually the youngest in the company until like quite a few months. Then we hired a new girl.
That's interesting. The CEO is the youngest in the company.
That was quite interesting. I was like, we had the range between, now I'm 26. We had between 26 and like 61 is the oldest. And that was something I was really fun when I hired this person that's 61. He's in Stockholm. He's really talented and good guy. He's a designer. But when I hired him, I'm like 2 interviews with him and everything. And I was like, hey, this is good. And I signed the papers with him and everything. And when I was supposed to put in like the pension plan, you know, so he gets the pension and insurance and so on, it didn't go through. I was like, and there was some error. I was like, what is this error? You know, and so I read it. People over like 60, you have to call us. I was like, what? He's not over 60. I mistyped some number. So I was like, no, this guy is really 60. I was like, what? You know, he looks younger though also, and he's like really cool vibe, you know, really cool guy. So I was like, what? But I was also so happy because I didn't discriminate the age, you know? I didn't care about the age. I was looking at like, can he deliver? So that was really good. But yeah, we had a lot of diversity. I think that's really important, but that's also nothing we try to like emphasize on or like put pressure on. We just don't care about these things. We want to like
you're open-minded, like, and then you're open for everyone to be as they want to be, basically, and don't try to force anything.
Exactly.
So you're trying to basically do a lot more, I would say, call it for consulting, not this stiff, boring, like big company. And I think, like, especially in Gothenburg, there's not a lot of smaller companies. It's those big IT consulting companies that are, like you say, like they are very numbers oriented. You guys are as well, but not to the point that it actually affects the culture and so on, that you have something else. You go on nice team building trips and prioritize the people, so you don't lose that culture. I also think it's attractive to join your company, basically.
Absolutely. So that's something we try to focus on a lot. I mean, for us, it's always been about the quality of the people. And that's like in the name. That's why we have the name QueensLab. That people wants to come first, like the queens in the company. And lab is like something we want to try different new things. We are never like full grown or full learned or something. We always have something new to discover and learn. So the curiosity in the company is really high. And that's why we want to like achieve new things. We have some type of vision that we want to have maximum 50 people per office. And that's because we want to keep it high enough in terms of like being 50 people is like quite a few quite a few people for us to be big enough to take on clients and so on, probably, but still small enough so we can keep the culture and the quality.
Yeah, it's hard after that. I read some stuff about that also. That's a limit of 50 people.
Yeah, and it's, the company have different type of limits. There's like small limits. That's also good if you want to do that. And there's a limit with 50, and there's always also bigger than that. But we found like, okay, this is a number that we believe that is good for us.
Yeah.
But it's also like we want to still work with the like big clients and make a big change for them.
Yeah.
So that's why we want to expand geographically.
Yeah, so you can take on bigger projects and so on.
Exactly.
Work with bigger clients.
And work like locally with the clients there, because that's something we really think it's important also to have presence around the world.
Yeah.
So we open up our office in Stockholm, and we open up also our office in Lisbon.
Yeah.
And for Lisbon, it was for us when we started to ask ourselves, where should we open up the office next?
Yeah.
And it was just for us, our CTO at the time and co-founder, he wanted to move there. He speaks the language, so it was like perfect. We did some research there and found a really good founding team there. So they started together with us, and we built up the office there. But also right now we're looking at different locations.
Yeah.
And for us, it's really easy because I think a lot of things are about perspective.
Yeah.
We have the goal and vision we are talking about here is we have the vision to open up our office in Mars, or at Mars, the planet Mars.
Yeah.
And that's maybe a little cliche, but it's more about like we want to go our own way, and we have really big visions and high goals.
Yeah.
That's when people ask me like, who are your competitors? I'm like, nobody. And they're like, oh, okay, come on, tell me who's your competitor. I'm like, no one wants to go to Mars. And it's just for us to say something, we want to do something else, and we want to just to compete with ourselves. We
have that as well. Me and Stefan, we are discussing a lot because you're looking at competitors. We mainly look in Bosnia, and especially I would say more of our team members, they can get nervous if another company does this and another company does that. But I think when you're really unique, okay, you can take inspiration from others, but you need to sit down and do your own things. And I'm glad you have like the same philosophy there, basically, because that's the only way to get unique. If everyone doing the same thing, and all the companies will look the same, and that's, I think, a lot of companies, that's why they look the same also, because they do look at each other and everyone does. But you have to be there to be unique and do mistakes and so on, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's something I think has been really good for me. I usually say my best, like, one thing I would change, at the same time I would never change it, is that I never had a job.
Yeah.
So that's one of the best things and also the worst thing, because I never had a job, so I've never seen how it works in other companies, which means I don't have anything to copy.
No.
So I always, when I do decisions, I always like, sometimes I have to reinvent the wheel, which is bad, but also at the same time I can reinvent it in a new type of way.
Yeah.
Because I do it as like I please. I think with my heart and I think with my brain, of course. Yeah. How should I do this, or how should this be like approached? And that's when I believe at least we can do something different.
Yeah, I think so as well.
So for us, it's really about doing something else. So right now we are looking at opening up offices in other locations, even outside of Europe. We will see what happens.
Soon Mars. So.
Yeah, of course, soon Mars. And that's also like about perspective. I mean, when you look at it, of course, for us, it's easier to open up a local office in Sweden.
Yeah, another city close. So,
it's close. We know the rules. We know everything. But for us, it's about like, hey, how hard is it going to be to open up in Mars? It's going to be this hard. How hard is it to open up in Lisbon? Compared to that, it's nothing. And we are going here, so why not take one step closer? And why not take the next step and open up in other countries?
Well, that's cool.
So that's something like I think a lot of it is about perspective.
Yeah, to raise the bar and so on. Yeah. We have a lot of diaspora from all of the Balkans following us. So, and you also have roots from the Balkans. You're born in Gothenburg, Sweden, but your both parents are from Serbia. That's great, right? Yeah. And so I wanted to ask, like, how has it been to be a second generation immigrant in Sweden, and if you think that has affected your like entrepreneurship or your opportunities and so on, like that?
So of course that affected. I think in my journey. Looking back at it, I think something that a lot of like second generation immigrants have had is the struggles that you do with your family in the new country. And
yeah, you have to build up a new life from scratch with basically no network and so on to help you.
yeah, so that's something like I probably like learned from my parents. To you have to do stuff. So you cannot expect to get always the help and so on. You cannot rely. Of course, there's a lot of help in Sweden,
Yeah,
but you have to do it a lot of things yourself.
yeah,
And that's something also I think was a lesson for me that I could learn early on, like the what matters, and the opportunity comes if you are successful in different type of fields and so on.
yeah. I think Zlatan Ibrahimovic said that like in Sweden you have to work twice as hard if you're an immigrant, and I think in some ways it's true, but I also think like I mean, it's easy to take this like victim's role of it. I don't think that's healthy, but okay, I think you have a harder time in the beginning, but then you are also well more prepared for long-term success because you had to work harder in the beginning. If you get like everything handed to you, okay, you start a company, you get maybe your first clients from your dad's friends and so on, but that's not going to work out in the long run. How good is that? Because you never have to learn all those skills that you and me had learned from scratch, basically, without having easy clients for free because we had a network like that. So I think it's two ways to look at it, basically. It's
exactly, exactly like that. I would like to point out, like, I'm lucky that I didn't grow up with like silverware in my mouth.
Yeah, because... I can agree with that as well. Really, I think like not maybe right. Like in the beginning, I could like sometimes think, oh, why didn't I have someone to help me with this? I think also Senad asked me like, Senad, my co-founder of Sendev, he asked me like, okay, how many clients do you think we have lost because of our last names in Sweden? And I said like, I actually haven't had a single thought about just thinking about that. Just probably just naive in that to just didn't think about it. Just continue working until it becomes successful, basically. So
that's always like that. There's you can be two types of people. The optimist or the pessimist or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really healthy thing to not think about it that way.
Yeah.
Even if you think about it like, okay, I got it. I have to work twice as hard.
Yeah.
That's perfect, because if you just work twice as hard, you're going to be so much more prepared than the other one, as you said.
Yeah, exactly.
And even like people are going to say next time, like they're going to say, oh yeah, you got this client because there's also another bitch, like
exactly.
someone from Balkan.
Yeah.
You're going to always hear the excuses and so on from people, but
yeah,
I mean, that's just excuses.
I agree. And also, I don't think like immigrants don't look into, obviously there are a lot of things that are harder for us, like if like we said, like you don't have a network and so on, and there are racist and discriminating on your last name and so on, you don't get a job, but you have to look at your opportunities to like, okay, like for us, me and Senad, we started Sendev, and we know the language and so on, and we a Swedish guy don't have that opportunity to just go to a foreign country and just start a company. That they are probably going to try to screw him over because he doesn't have that connection, that they feel the same. So there's also strengths and opportunities as an immigrant as well. So I think definitely there's two ways to look at it. So
absolutely. And I think I see it as, of course there's been challenges, because at the same time you have like two kind of homes, you got both Sweden and Gothenburg, and I also got Serbia, Belgrade, where my parents is the one I'm from. But at one point it's like you're not home anywhere, because when I go to Serbia they call me, hey, the Swedish guy, and when I go to Sweden I'm like, hey, you're the immigrant, kind of.
That's the same for everyone, I think.
So you don't kind of have a home, but at the same time trying to see the opportunities there. So that we have talked a lot about it, but I'm really looking forward to even like see further what that type of opportunities can bring. Like I would really love to do something in the Balkans together with Sweden, as you guys doing. So I'm so impressed with the journey you are doing.
Thank you.
It's really amazing to see.
Yeah. So we're definitely looking forward for you to come down to one of our after parties in Sarajevo or Mostar office, Senate offices, of course. So there's no excuses next year. You have to come.
Definitely, that will be my New Year's promise. I have to come. I'm really weak for the Balkan music, the rakia, the drinks, the food, the people, everything. I mean, the weather is also. So definitely, that I will come next year.
Great. You're very welcome. And this was it for this time. See you in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Ciao.
Ciao.
Vidimo se.
Vidimo se.